guys, I hope you're doing great today. This is actually the part B of our Kubecontrol Commands Cheat Sheet. Guys, you know that in the last part we covered around 50 kubecontrol, which is Kubernetes CLI. Kubecontrol is actually Kubernetes CLI and it is used to manage your Kubernetes cluster. So in the first part, we covered actually around 50 kubecontrol commands, and I hope that you have executed all these commands on your Minikube cluster. Guys, Minikube cluster is a fantastic solution. It is one of the best solution to get started with Kubernetes, to get started learning Kubernetes in a very quick way. Okay, so I have Kubernetes installed on my local machine. So it is really a quick way to get started learning your Kubernetes journey. So I have shared the Kubernetes repository that I have on my GitHub. You can take a fork, you can copy, you can clone it on your system, and I will be sharing everything on this repository regarding our Kubernetes course. So in the first part, in part A, you saw that we have covered around 50 kubecontrol commands. Now you can see I have shared each command with a little bit of its explanation so that you have an idea what is the purpose of that command, right? So I have shared each command and its information, a little bit information, and the purpose of that command. Like kubecontrol get nodes, you will get the nodes, master node and worker nodes of a Kubernetes cluster. And similarly, get all options, API resources, get pods, get namespaces, get services, and every command has been explained, and I practically executed each command in my Kubernetes Commands Cheat Sheet lecture. So I will share the part A. I will share the link of part A in the description. So if you skipped that part by any reason, make sure that you must watch it. You have an idea of how kubecontrol or Kubernetes CLI works. So in part B, we are going to cover around 30 more kubecontrol commands, and in total we will have 80 kubecontrol commands. Guys, if you know each and every command that we discuss in these two parts, around 80 kubecontrol commands, I'm pretty sure that you will feel really confident to manage even servers or clusters in production. You are going to be managing Kubernetes clusters, master nodes and worker nodes in production environment, and this is actually a professional training, and I would like to share each command in detail so that you feel confident that I know that much kubecontrol commands. I can manage every Kubernetes cluster. So in part B, by the way, Kubernetes kubecontrol is a command line tool which allows users to interact with Kubernetes cluster. And in our solution, we have Minikube. So Minikube is just a fully functional Kubernetes cluster on your personal machine or on your personal laptop, right? So we have Minikube as our Kubernetes cluster, and we can practice each command, all these 80 commands on our Minikube cluster to get our hands on Kubernetes. So kubecontrol is used to deploy applications, manage and monitor cluster resources. So are you ready to run these commands with me? Let's get started. And before getting started, make sure that you subscribe DevOps Molvi, and you are going to learn and you are going to get professional Kubernetes training in this Kubernetes free course. So this would be our first command, kubecontrol config view. And I have shared the brief explanation of this command, that to view your current Kubernetes configuration. Now I will start my WSL2. I have this machine on my local virtual machine, and I have installed Ubuntu via WSL2, and after that I have installed Minikube on this machine. So I will log in via root user and I will give the password of my DevOps Molvi user. Alright, now I will clear the screen and I will check Minikube status. I've already shared how we can install Minikube. You can find it. There is a complete guide install Minikube on your local machine and you can install it on your personal computer. And it is a fully functional Kubernetes cluster. I have practiced all these 80 commands before presenting in front of you. I have practiced all these 80 commands on this Minikube cluster. It's fantastic. So you can see that it has been stopped. So I will just run this command minikube start and our minikube cluster will be started, and it is saying that you have to run with force using force switch because I am using the root user. Our minikube cluster would be started in a moment. I guess we have to wait for it. Alright, it is now preparing and you can see that we are going to use it is actually the latest version of Kubernetes and we have this version 31. By the way, there is also 32 version also. It is available, but it is in, I think, beta release and it is not recommended for production environments. I guess so, but this is actually the stable version and the updated version that I have on my virtual machine. So guys, this is the solution. You can learn Kubernetes on your computer using Minikube, and now Minikube status. Now you can see I have Minikube running on my virtual machine. So it is running. Now I can Kubecontrol run every Kubernetes command. Kubecontrol get pods. Okay, I will just okay, and there are no resources. And if I run Kubecontrol, I have already covered these commands. Kubecontrol get pods minus or hyphen capital A. It means that I will get the pods in all namespaces. Alright, namespace is an isolated environment, and if you are going to create the resources in a specific namespace, those resources can only be managed using that namespace name. Now you can see I have ES cluster, Elasticsearch cluster. It is a functional cluster on my PC personal computer, and I have this namespace. By the way, if I want to see the pods of a specific namespace, namespace is an isolated environment, you can say, and you can build resources in that namespace, and those resources can only be viewed using the namespace name. Okay, this is actually a confusing thing, but let me explain it to you guys. Now Kubecontrol get pods minus n. Now I have to give the namespace name. Now what is the namespace name? You can see this is namespace. I have a couple of namespaces on my Kubernetes cluster. DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. That would be our next chapter, by the way, in which we are going to discuss the YAML file structure of Kubernetes. And you can see ingress, nginx, and kube system. So if I want to see the pods of kube system namespace, then it will show me the pods of that namespace only. Now you get it. Namespace isolates the pods from other namespaces. Okay, now if I want to see the pods of DevOps Elasticsearch namespace, then I can use Kubecontrol get pods hyphen or minus n hyphen n namespace name and DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. So it will share only two pods. Alright, I have two pods running in that namespace. So I have already covered these commands, just repeating for yourself. And if I clear, and if I run kubecontrol get svc service, and you can see we have this service in the default namespace. That now the default namespace is set as default. We can change the namespace. I have already shared this command in our part A. So guys, now this was how we can use Kubernetes CLI, right? And now you must know how you can use Kubernetes CLI to manage Kubernetes cluster, your master node and your worker nodes. We are going to use these commands extensively in our upcoming lectures while we create daemon sets, replica sets, stateful sets, namespaces, services, cluster IP, node port, etc. Kubernetes CLI, which is Kubecontrol, it is actually the command line tutorial. It is actually the command line interface which is used to manage Kubernetes cluster. Now, our first command, kubecontrol config view. Make sure that you remember these commands. It is a good practice to execute the commands without copying it. Okay, I can copy from my GitHub repository, but I have tried to remember these commands, and it is a good practice to deeply explore what any command does. And now you can see I have got the whole clusters configuration, and you can see the cluster info. It is running on this IP and port. Its name is minikube context, you can see, and last update of this cluster, its version. All right, and the namespace that is set, as I told you, it is default. User is minikube, name minikube, and every other information, the version, right, and the certificate information and provider, every information about your Kubernetes cluster. You can run kubecontrol config view, and it will share the Kubernetes configuration overview. All right, guys, now you can see I have kubecontrol and get pods minus n DevOps Molvi. This is my namespace for Elasticsearch cluster, and I have these two pods, and I have created a stateful set. Now, what is the difference between daemon set, replica set, stateful set? There should be a separate full lecture covering these important concepts, but for the sake of this lecture only, we are going to discuss the commands. You can see I have these two pods running on my Kubernetes cluster. If I want to SSH each pod, I can run this command kubecontrol, all right, execute minus it, and the name of your pod, es cluster dash or -0, whatever you call it, and this is the name, and double hyphen dash dash, right, and the shell bin bash. Okay, it is saying that error from server not found pods. And what is the issue? The issue is that I have not used the namespace name because it is not in the default namespace. It is in my DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch namespace. Now I should be connected. Okay, it is still saying that not found. So I have to use this command like this way. Right, now that's how we can troubleshoot -n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Okay, now we are in that part. Okay, so that's how sometimes our commands, if they do not work, you have to fix them. So by the way, this command was also correct. If we have been in the DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch namespace, if it is our default namespace, then this command should have worked perfectly. But you saw that I have to explicitly mention the name of the namespace, and then I executed this command. It also didn't work. So I have to run this command in other way, and I have used minus n the namespace after the pod name. So that is the correct syntax. I was making the syntax mistakes. So now if I run curl localhost and 9200, the Elasticsearch port is 9200, and you can see it is running on my pod. So that's how, guys, you can SSH any pod. For instance, if I run, I have another pod, Kubecontrol get pods minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Now this is my pod ES cluster 1. If I want to SSH this pod, I will quickly do it. Kubecontrol exec minus IT ES cluster dash 1 minus n. Now it should not create any problems for me. So DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch and double dash bin bash. I have remembered the whole command, okay, and it worked like a charm. There were no issues. So that's how, guys, you can enter into any pod. Okay, so if I want to delete certain pod, then I can run kubecontrol get pods minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Okay, sorry, this is the CLI problem, and I can use delete pod. Okay, delete pod, and if I want to delete this pod, I have to give the name of that pod. Guys, by the way, I am executing all these commands. Okay, you can see all these commands, and make sure that you have to use your own pod names and you have to use your own namespace name. That's how you can clear your concepts. Everything should be customized. Okay, you must change your namespace name, you must change your pod's name. That's a better idea, so that you know what are you doing. And now if I want to delete this pod, I can run this command, and okay, now again, DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Alright, our pod has been deleted. That's how we can delete any pod. Now if I run kubecontrol get pods minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Alright, guys, now you can see that my new pod is initializing again, though I have deleted the pod. But why it is now being reinitialized, why I'm getting a new pod? Because I'm using stateful set. If I want to show you ES cluster, I have the YAMLs here. You can see I have this main cluster YAML, nano ES main cluster. You can see I am using stateful set. So if by any chance you remove or you delete a pod, Kubernetes cluster will recreate a new pod. This is the you can see that this is actually the benefit of using stateful set, right? So you saw I deleted the pod and a new pod has been reinitialized. If I run kubecontrol get pods -n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, it is now running. If you want to practice it, you can delete this pod ES cluster 1 and you will see that it will be reinitialized again. And if I want to forcefully delete all these pods in that namespace, I can use kubecontrol delete pods hyphen hyphen all minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch hyphen hyphen force, and it will forcefully delete all the pods in that namespace. Let me run it. Let's see. Okay, and you can see that it is saying immediate deletion does not wait for confirmation that the running resource has been terminated. The resource may continue to run on the cluster indefinitely, and after that my both pods have been deleted since I have used forcefully. So it has forcefully removed and terminated both pods. Now if I check get pods hyphen n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, and one pod is now running again and the second pod is in the initialization phase, so it will take a couple of minutes to get initialized. So that's how, guys, if some pod is not getting deleted, it is causing any issues, we can run the force command. We can run this switch to forcefully terminate, to forcefully delete any pod or all the pods in any given namespace. All right. And if you see the command, I have also explained that this command deletes all pods forcefully in the DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch namespace. After that, guys, we can remove. First of all, I should tell you that Kubecontrol get stateful sets hyphen n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Now you can see I have a stateful set with the name ES cluster. This is a stateful set with two pods. And if I want to delete this stateful set, I can run Kubecontrol delete. By the way, I have used YAML files to create these stateful sets and namespace and service. If you want to see, I have used this namespace nano namespace.yaml. It has created this namespace DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, and if I want to see the service ES service, and this is my service Elasticsearch cluster using this namespace, and you can see I have the ports information in the service YAML file, and this is my main clusters YAML file in which I have created this stateful set in this namespace with two replicas. Okay, you can see. By the way, I'm sorry, we are going to have the full YAML lecture, which is our upcoming lecture, but I just want to give you an idea from where I have created this stateful set. I can increase the number of replicas. Okay, if I want to increase the number of replicas, for instance, then I can run and change, and after that if I apply, there would be 3 replicas. Should I try it? Okay, I give it a quick try, and Kubecontrol apply -f es main Elasticsearch. Okay, and it has been covered. Now if I run Kubecontrol get stateful sets -n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, now you can see there are 3 stateful sets. 2 are ready and third should be in the process of initializing. And if I run Kubecontrol get pods -n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, and you can see now I have 3 pods. So this is actually a stateful set with 3 pods. I have the replica. Each replica is identical with the same storage, with the same features. All right. So that's how we can create a stateful set using the YAML. So now if I want to delete this stateful set, the command is Kubecontrol delete stateful set, and stateful set and its name ES cluster minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Okay, I'm going to delete it. It has been deleted. Now if I check it using Kubecontrol get stateful sets, that's how you practice the commands. Stateful sets minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch. Alright, it has been deleted. Okay, so that's how I have also shared the command with you guys. Kubecontrol delete stateful set ES cluster, and it will delete the ES cluster stateful set from my DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch namespace. And if I want to create again, now if I want to see the pods, there should not be any pods now, because the stateful has been deleted, the stateful set has been deleted. Minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, and it has been, everything has been deleted regarding stateful set. We just have the namespace. And if I run Kubecontrol apply minus f and es main cluster.yaml, and I will create a new stateful set with the same name es cluster. Okay, Kubecontrol get stateful set minus n DevOps Molvi Elasticsearch, and it should be in the process of initialization, and the rest of the two are in the phase of creation. So guys, that's how we can deal with stateful sets in Kubernetes. Now you saw that I have deleted the stateful set. I want to see the new stateful sets progress. Then I can run Kubecontrol status, rollout status sts stateful set and es clusters, which is the name of the stateful set, minus n and the name of the Elasticsearch namespace. And it is saying that partitioned rollout complete, 3 new pods have been updated. So you can see if there are hundreds of pods, okay, in that stateful set, and you want to see the progress, how my pods are being initialized, then you can run this command Kubecontrol rollout status and stateful set. STS stands for stateful set and name of your stateful set and the name of your namespace. If I run Kubecontrol get pods minus n, all pods should be running and good to go. Elasticsearch. That's how we can create and terminate and then recreate stateful set. It is our mini kube cluster. We can get our hands dirty on this. And I have shared this command as well here. But before running this command, make sure that you remember these commands so that you have a better idea what are you doing. After that, guys, now we are going to start with PVC, okay? And PVC stands for persistent volume claims. And there is PV, persistent volumes, and there is PVC, persistent volume claims. And guys, there is a difference between a PV and a PVC. Persistent volume is actually the volume that is physically attached to any pod. And PVC is just like we claim for the storage. And when we claim for the storage, it is assigned to our resource, then it becomes the physical and the actually attached storage. So first, we have to claim for the storage. It is just like the example of voucher, and we claim the voucher and then we get everything, a certification voucher, like, so we have to claim the voucher and then we can get the discount or the actual money. So similarly, we have to claim the storage, and this is the difference. The key difference between PV and PVC is that persistent volume is actually the volume that is attached to a pod, and PVC is actually the storage that has been claimed by that pod to be attached to it. All right, so we have to claim, and by the way, when the claim is successful, that volume is attached as PV. So it is one of the important interview question and answer. What is the difference between a PV and PVC? So I've told you the best example of PVC is the voucher. You have to give the voucher to claim your discount, to claim your money. All right, so now I will run this command, kubectl get PVC, okay, persistent volume claims, and we should have around 3 volume claims, because since we deleted our stateful set, and now we should have 3 volume claims. Now you can see that I have 3 persistent volume claims. All right, and in my YAML file I have es main cluster. I have this information here, and you must see that volume claim templates and the metadata, data, ES service, and each claim is 5 GB. So that's how we can see the persistent volume claims. And also, if I want to see the persistent volumes, then I can run kubectl get PV and the namespace name. So these are my persistent volumes that were actually attached to the pods. So this is the claim, how you claim for the storage, and this is the storage that is actually attached to any pod. So this is the difference between a persistent volume and a persistent volume claims. So similarly, I can run other commands, and if you know the commands for PVC or PV, both are almost the same. Just have to use PV or PVC. Kubectl get PV, all right, in all namespaces, then this command. And if I run PVC in all namespaces, then you have to use this this command. And similarly, kubectl describe, and if I want to describe any persistent volume, then I can run this, the name of describe PVC and the namespace name to get more details of any volumes. Okay, now you can see the output, the name of the persistent volume, its storage class and its claim, and also the storage or the disk space that this volume has, and it has 4 GB. All right, so for instance, if I want to edit and I want to reduce the disk space, okay, then I can use the name of the persistent volume. This is the name of the persistent volume, and I will use kubectl edit PV and the name of the PVC and the name of the, okay, now it is better to see it. Now you can see I have the information here, and for instance, if I want to reduce the size, and I can edit and 3 GB, okay, then okay, sorry, and I will save the changes, and it is saying that persistent volume, this has been edited. Now if I run kubectl get PV and DevOps Molvi, you have to use this namespace again and again. I can set it by default, but I just want to make sure that you practice that way, because in a Kubernetes cluster there can be 10 or 20 namespaces, so you have to use the namespace name. Now you can see from 4 GB it has been reduced to 3 GB. And similarly guys, I can use the kubectl delete PV and the name of the persistent volume, and it will delete that persistent volume. And similarly, I can use the PVC and the name of the persistent volume claim, and the name of your namespace. I have already shared these commands. Now you can see I have this kubectl get pv. Pv stands for persistent volumes, and this command tells us all the persistent volumes. And similarly, I can use the describe command, kubectl describe. I have already run this command and get my persistent volume name o wide. So it is, let's run this command, and kubectl get pv and the name of the persistent volume o wide, and it will actually share more details about that persistent volume. Now we have got a little bit more details, and if I want to see the output in the JSON format, I can run, I will get all the details about that persistent volume in the JSON format. Now you can see I have each and every detail of this persistent volume in the JSON format. And similarly, I can get in YAML as well, YAML. And now you can see I have got the details in the YAML format. So I will clear, and now this is YAML -o YAML, or if I want to see in the JSON format -o JSON, or I just want to know some general details about that persistent volume. I have shared all these commands here. You have to replace, you have to change the name of your persistent volume. That's why I have used my PV name. It is because you have to change the persistent volume name accordingly. Okay, and that's how we can edit. I have run this, and that's how we can delete any persistent volume, and we can delete all the persistent volume running this command. And similarly, this will show us all the persistent volume claims in all the namespaces, sorry. And now if I want to see the storage class, then I can run this command, and it is also a simple storage class, means the standard storage. Just like we have in cloud computing, there are storage classes. So we have normally the default storage class as standard, kubectl get sc. And now you can see it is actually the standard storage class Kubernetes cluster Minikube is using. It can be high performance as well. So this command is used to tell the storage class of your Kubernetes cluster. And if there are normal workloads, then we can use this storage class. And if our applications need intensive high performance, then we can use the storage class as high performance for large Kubernetes clusters. So this is the command to get the storage class information. That's how I can get more details, or if I want to run the JSON, so that's how I can get more details in the JSON format. And similarly, the purpose of showing these commands that you can change these switches so that you can get more details. Now -o YAML, it will print out the output in the YAML format, and you will have a better idea and full details of any storage class or persistent volume or pod. These three switches, -o wide, -o and space and JSON, or -o and space and YAML. And if I want to know more details of this pod, then I will run kubectl get pod and the name of the pod, yes, cluster get pod. Okay, get namespace, get service, get pv, get pvc 0 -o y -n and name of the. Alright, now you can feel the difference between both commands. It is sharing the output and it is just telling that it is ready and running. but this command is showing a little bit more information. It's node, IP, age, status, readiness, nominated node, etc. So similarly, if I run okay, sorry, SEAR, and if I run JSON, I will replace, and now I can have every possible detail of this pod in the JSON format, and these commands are extensively used for troubleshooting issues with pods, services, replica sets, daemon sets, etc. And if I want to replace with YAML, YAML, and I will have the information in the YAML format. So that's how, guys, we can get the detailed information about any object or any resource in a Kubernetes cluster. And don't worry, each command has been written here. You can run each command one by one. And now I think that I have covered almost every command. And okay, uh, I have used this command as well. And now I have also used this command for, I will run it and I will tell you what this command does. And we have kubectl get stateful set, and now if I want to scale down it, okay, then I can run this command kubectl scale stateful set es cluster replicas is equal to 2, and then I will have only 2 replicas of this stateful set. So changing the number will scale up or scale down that stateful set. So we will have the number of pods accordingly. Now, if I want to scale down, okay, now you can see it has been scaled, and we must see ES cluster as 2 by 2. Okay, if I run this command again, and okay, I will just copy this command. Okay, now you can see we have only 2 replicas of this stateful set, and if I scale it up, then I can run 4, and it has been scaled up. They should be 2 are running and 2 must be initializing. Then I can run kubectl get pods minus n, and the name of my namespace, you can see now the 4th is in the initialization process. So I have also shared this command how we can scale up. By the way, in our daemon set, replica set, and stateful set lecture, it should be a complete lecture because it is one of the most important concept in Kubernetes: replica sets, daemon sets, and stateful sets. So we are going to practice these commands again by scaling up, scaling down daemon, replica, or stateful sets. Alright, guys, our last 5 commands, and these commands are about roles. Guys, you know that roles are set of permissions telling that user or a service account how you can manipulate or deal with the Kubernetes cluster resources. Just like if you remember, we discussed roles in Google Cloud Platform, like editor role, viewer role. So these are all permissions, and we can grant those permissions, those roles, to a specific user or a service account. Similarly, we have roles here in a Kubernetes cluster, and we can get the roles information about roles running this command, or we can use the namespace kubesystem, which should have every information about the roles. So you can see we have these predefined roles, and similarly we have cluster roles to see all the cluster roles, and then we can assign those roles or cluster roles to specific users or service accounts. Now if I run, okay, sorry, and kubectl get cluster roles, and all these are cluster roles. So there is actually a slight difference between a role and a cluster role. So what would be the difference? A role is actually the set of permissions for a specific namespace, and the cluster role is actually the set of permissions for the entire cluster. A role can be applied to a certain namespace, and a cluster role is going to be applied to whole cluster. Okay, this is actually the difference. A role is specified for a specific namespace, and a cluster role is specified for the whole cluster. So that is actually the key difference between a role and a cluster role. Kubecontrol get roles. You will find the roles in any defined namespace, and if I run kubecontrol get cluster roles, you can see we have all these cluster roles like cluster admin, which are the administrator roles for any Kubernetes cluster. So similarly, if I want to see what do I have in this role, then I can run kubecontrol describe cluster role. Okay, if you want to get the information about role, then you have to run kubecontrol describe role, and if you want to get the information or details about a cluster role, then you have to change the command as kubecontrol describe or get cluster role and the name of the cluster role. Okay, now you can see the information, more details about this cluster admin role, and it has access to all the cluster resources, just like we have administrator or just like we have the root user. So similarly, we have this cluster admin role, and if I run admin, then it is the most powerful role in our Kubernetes cluster. So that's how I can see what this role has, policies, all the policies and resources this role has. So I can use the kubecontrol describe cluster role and admin. So similarly, I can use other roles names, and I can get the details about every role. So these commands are used to get the information about roles and cluster roles. And I have also shared all these commands here. You can see kubecontrol describe role, see the details of a specific role, and kubecontrol describe cluster role to see more details of any cluster role. And finally guys, our second last and last command, and you can see my Kubernetes cluster tutorial where I have shared and practically used these commands. This is actually the kube administrator. These are commands to join or to create token for the worker node. Now you can see I have this command kube join, and I can run this command on Kubernetes worker node so that it can join the master node. And similarly, if I forgot the token for some reasons, I can recreate this token again, and I can use this token on my worker node to join it with the master node. And I can show you here, I have used this command. So it is used to join our worker node with the master node. Each worker node should have run this command so that it can join the master node. So I have also shared these two commands. By the way, if you are still confused how we can use these commands, you have to watch how to create a Kubernetes cluster. That was my previous lecture in which we created a master node and a worker node, and we created one-to-one Kubernetes cluster with one master node and with one worker node. That's it guys for today's lecture. So we covered around 80 kubecontrol commands. I hope that if you practically perform and practice all these commands, you will have a better grip on kubecontrol and Kubernetes CLI. In the next chapter, we are going to discuss the YAML files of Kubernetes and how the syntax of those YAML files look like or work. So next chapter is really important to understand, because if you understand one or two YAMLs of any Kubernetes cluster, you will be able to manipulate or change those YAML files to create resources, namespaces, pods, services, etc. on any Kubernetes cluster. So make sure that you subscribe DevOps Molvi. I will watch you in the next chapter in our free Kubernetes course. Have a good one and bye.